The biggest takeaway from Texas A&M's win over Arkansas was how well the Aggies ran the football.
You are Locked On Aggies, your daily podcast on the Texas A&M Aggies. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome on into Locked On Aggies. I'm your host, Andrew Stefanak. Thanks for making Locked On Aggies your first listen every single day. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. Watching that game yesterday, there were a lot of positives to take away, and we're going to discuss all of them. But I think looking back at the numbers after the dust has kind of settled on this game, the biggest takeaway was how well the Aggies ran the football. Heading into this game, Arkansas was one of the best teams in college football stopping the run. So I talked about, will you be able to have that balance? Can Max throw it and you run the football? They did in this football game. The Aggies, they ran the ball well. Arkansas was allowing 89 yards per game, and then the Aggies go and run for 204, 5.2 yards per carry. So that's how you beat a team. When you're able to beat them with what I don't even really consider to be Texas A&M's strength, frankly, I think we can all agree here. I wouldn't say that the strength of this offense is the running game, but you're able to go and dominate a team and what their strength is, which is stopping the run. That's exciting. Because, we're going to talk about like what the rest of the SEC currently looks like, what the landscape is, because things are starting to kind of clear up and get more exciting for the Aggies. And if you want to have this big season where you make a run at the SEC West, I do think you're going to have to run the football and throw the football. But I mean, you like I talked about balance. You have to have it. And if you're able to run the football like this against a really good run defense in Arkansas, I feel confident you're able to do that against all the teams left on the schedule. I mean, I'll tell you one thing. I hope everybody got to watch the Ole Miss LSU game. It was a great football game. But one thing we saw is those are some high-powered offenses that are, the defenses are going to give up some points. So the Aggies, of course, are having to play both of those teams. They're going to be able to score points against them, and I think they're going to be able to run the football. So, you got to be able to run against Bama. And I think they're going to be able to do it. I mean, I got a lot more confidence in Texas A&M's ability to run the football based on what they did against Arkansas. Le'Veon Moss continues to heat up. 17 carries, 107 yards, 6.3 yards per carry. Max Johnson ran the football well. He had a couple of good plays moving the ball with his legs, which, heading into the season, that was my biggest concern for Max Johnson. When it was kind of, there was the period of time where we all thought Connor Wigman was the guy. And then, at SEC Media Days, Coach Fisher, kind of was talking a lot about Max Johnson and saying lots of positives. And so was Aniyah Smith. And so it kind of got to a point of like, maybe he's more in this race than we thought. And when that happened, my big concern for why I like Connor Wigman over Max Johnson was just flat out the fact that I didn't think Max Johnson could run the football like Connor Wigman did. Now, I'm still going to take Connor Wigman running the football over Max Johnson. But what we saw yesterday, and what we even saw a little bit against Auburn, was that he can move the football with his legs. Now, you got to take care of it. He did put the ball on the ground on what was a nice run. You got to take care of the football. You can't put it on the ground. But he ran the ball well, which was, I wouldn't say surprising. If you would have said Max Johnson's going to have 57 on the ground, I'd have been like, okay. I'd have figured he'd had a couple plays where he escaped the pocket and ran for 32 yards or something like that, but they were big 32 yards. The fact that he was able to rip off 57 yards on the ground, that's good for the Aggies quarterback. Amari Daniels, 10 for 36 on the ground. And then the biggest surprise of the day, which is we're going to kind of get into our second takeaway in talking about this, but Reuben Owens, 2 carries for 7 yards. He only played 8 snaps in this game. Le'Veon Moss had 38. Amari Daniels had 27 snaps in this game. Heading into the year, I did think that we would see one of these running backs kind of separate and become the guy. I had a feeling it was going to be Reuben Owens. And what we've seen this week and a little bit last week, I think Le'Veon Moss is heating up and he's playing some good football at the right time. So, of course, he led the running back room in snaps with 38. Reuben Owens only plays 8 snaps. I mean, I would not, if you would have said which running back has the least snaps on Saturday, I don't think I would have said Reuben Owens. And I definitely wouldn't have said, well, if it is Reuben Owens, it's by a substantial amount of carries. So that's interesting to me. I wonder, and Coach Fisher's talked time and time again, and that's one thing I'll have to ask him this week at the SEC teleconference is like, was there a reason he didn't get all these carries? I don't think it's a confidence issue the coaching staff has in Reuben Owens. They've talked time and time again about how much they like Reuben Owens, how great they think he's going to be, how great they think he's going to be in the future. So they trust him now. We've seen that based on the amount of snaps he's gotten early on into his career in his true freshman year. So that's an interesting question that we need to kind of get to the bottom of. Because like I said, I would not have expected that. I would not have expected that at, in week, this was the 5th game of the year. I kind of figured Reuben Owens would take over. And the fact that he didn't was a little surprising to me. The next takeaway is that the Aggies are currently 2nd in the SEC in sacks, 20 sacks. And this is what's so crazy about it. Heading into the Auburn game, they had 6 sacks. Do the math on that. That just shows you how much pressure the Aggies have gotten over these last couple of weeks against 2 SEC opponents, Arkansas and Auburn. The pressure, and it's funny because it makes you, I was talking about this with my dad yesterday. It's like, it makes you really want that Miami game back and, maybe take a different approach to the defense. It's, and that's a story for another day, but it just, looking at those numbers, it's like, I would really love another crack at those at the Miami Hurricanes. No knock to the Miami Hurricanes. I think they're a great football team. I'm just saying I'd like another shot with a different game plan. Of course, you're not going to get that, but so that stood out because I knew we talked about it a ton against New Mexico and against Louisiana Monroe. I wanted to see more sacks because I wanted to prove like, hey, we can get some pressure. And I know that they were getting the quarterbacks were getting the ball out quick, and there's different variables that played into that. But it's still, I kind of wanted to see some more sacks against those opponents. So seeing that you get into SEC play and you're just flat out living in the backfield against SEC opponents is really cool to see. You also had 15 tackles for loss in this game. I mean, the Arkansas couldn't do anything. That's how good the front 7 was. That's how good the secondary was. I mean, they truly couldn't do anything. KJ Jefferson was just flat out. I mean, the Aggies just had him bottled up. He had a couple runs, but they did a good job taking care of him running the football. They had a couple big tackles for loss on him attempting to run the ball. They stopped Rocket Sanders some. I mean, this was a flat out just incredible job stopping stopping the run. We talked about that. I mean, that's another thing to remember. Arkansas had 42 yards on the ground with KJ Jefferson and Rocket Sanders back in the lineup. That was my biggest concern going into this game was, could they beat you on the ground? I wasn't super confident in their passing attack. And as we saw, I mean, KJ Jefferson had a $132 through the air, and I'm pretty sure 48 of those came from that garbage time touchdown. So you look at these numbers and it's like the defense was dominant. I mean, KJ Jefferson's QBR was 20.7. That is not very good. And the receivers, when you hold the receivers down. Now, the tight end for Arkansas did go down. I don't think that changes the game in any way, but I know that did affect Arkansas. I hope he's okay. I know he's a good player. He has a great career ahead of him. But I mean, just the way that they stopped this offense, I was not expecting this. And I think that the 34-22 score was a little deceiving. I mean, Texas A&M, I thought flat out just outplayed Arkansas in just about every way. Now, I do know that there were a few things that Texas A&M shot themselves in the foot a few times. There was the interception that was a weird play, and then Max puts the ball on the ground. So there were a few things that Texas A&M did that, like I said, that shot themselves in the foot, and they still just flat out dominated this football game. So, if I would have told you that Texas A&M makes all these mistakes, that you give up a pick six to come out of the half or come into the second half, and you do all this and you still win this game. And I mean, like I said, so that means that you have a couple field goals from the Hogs, you have a pick six, and then the garbage time touchdown with 4 minutes left in the game when you're up 34-16. I mean, that you look at this and it's like the Aggies just flat out dominated this game. And I mean, you had a couple. How many did Randy miss one field goal or two? Randy missed a kick. I know he missed a kick. I want to make sure he didn't miss two. Yeah, he missed 2 field goals. So you left points on the board. You make both of those. You make both of those kicks. You win this game 40-22. It felt like with how many times Texas A&M kind of shot themselves in the foot in this game, the fact that they still won the game by this many points with the garbage time touchdown for Arkansas, it's cool. It's a cool thing to take away, just how the Aggies did not. I don't think they played their best game, and they still just dominated Arkansas. Who do I think Arkansas is the best team in the SEC? Do I think they're a top 25 team? No, in no way do I think that. But it's still a quality SEC opponent away from home. It's not an away game, but still away from home, and you flat out just dominate this football game. It was really cool to see. It's just a flat-out big win for the Aggies, gritty win, made some mistakes, and are still able to leave with a big victory to get to 2-0 in SEC play. We're going to talk about Max Johnson and what he did in this ball game and takeaways from his performance coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. But first, I want to tell you about our friends over at Athletic Brewing Company. Athletic Brewing Company has completely changed the non-alcoholic beer game. They make non-alcoholic beers that actually taste good, full flavor and well-crafted, just like a full-strength beer. Their brews are great tasting and award-winning and beat out full-strength beers in global competitions. This was one of the things when I saw that they were a sponsor of the show. I was super excited to taste it. They sent a 6-pack. Really good stuff. Tasted great. I really enjoyed it. You have got to go check it out. You can find Athletic Brewing Company's non-alcoholic brews at a store near you or buy online at athleticbrewing.com. First-time customers can use code LOCKEDON to get 15% off your first order. That's code LOCKEDON at checkout for 15% off at athleticbrewingcompany.com. Near beer. Exclusions and conditions apply. Athletic Brewing Company, fit for all times. So Max Johnson in this game, I thought once again, that touchdown throw to Evan Stewart early in the ball game, what a great throw. It feels like every time we see Max Johnson on the football field, he makes a throw that just leaves you like, he leaves your jaw dropped. I mean, he is just a really talented passer when it comes to downfield throws. And, here's the deal. There were a few drops that hurt him too. I mean, I think that the numbers were better than they were in essence. I mean, the numbers I thought could have been better if some people helped him out. You had a couple drops, but Max Johnson, this was my concern heading into this game. And this was the biggest worry for Max Johnson for this Texas A&M football team. And frankly, that's kind of put to bed after this performance. We talk about the backup quarterback syndrome. We see it all the time. Backup quarterback comes in the middle of a game, starter goes down, and the backup has this amazing performance, puts up a ton of yards, ton of points, wins you a football game. And then, so everybody's like, oh, okay, we're going to be okay. This guy's pretty good. And then you get into the next week. You get ready to play your next game. The opponent is preparing for that quarterback. They know what they're doing. They are kind of getting ready to go for that game. They know their strengths, their weaknesses. They're planning for the backup quarterback. And then the backup doesn't have a great game. We see that. We see that happen all the time, and that was my concern heading into this game. a little bit less than like if you brought in like a true freshman, but because I'm saying because Max Johnson's a guy who's played a lot of college football, played for the Aggies, played in the SEC. That concern a little bit wasn't as big as if it was like you're bringing in a random guy, a true freshman, a walk-on or something crazy. But it was still a concern, and Max Johnson came out and delivered, made some big-time throws, a couple good plays on third down. He used his legs. He did everything he needed to do to win this football game for the Aggies. And that's the thing is, he didn't throw for 375 and 4. He didn't need to. He did what he needed to do for the Aggies to win this football game. Sometimes all you need to be a successful football team is have your quarterback just come out and flat out manage a game well. Max Johnson managed this game well. He looks calm and collected in the pocket. It's good to see your backup quarterback come in and play at this high of a level. Alabama's coming to town, and I think the Aggies are going to win this football game. I do, and we're going to talk about it. I know they had a better game. Milroe was more efficient against Mississippi State, but still, I leave this game strictly thinking I think the Aggies can win this game. I'm curious to know what the line's going to be. That's going to open up soon. I'll put that in the comments of the show. I'm recording before it comes out. But, this is a game because of Max Johnson, what he brings to the table and the talent that he possesses. I think the Aggies have a real shot at winning this game at home against Alabama. And you got to remember, how many teams would have their backup quarterback in the game? And Alabama comes to town and you say, yeah, I think we can win this football game. Not many. That is the advantage having a backup quarterback like Max Johnson brings you. So this is going to be a fun game. We're going to break that down, that whole game, all week right here on Locked On Aggies. But the next thing we're going to talk about is just how manageable the SEC schedule is. You don't want to talk too early about some of these teams because you kind of want to – you got to wait a couple weeks to learn what every team has to offer. We're deep enough into the year to where I think we have a pretty good picture of what every SEC team is bringing to the table. And I look at this, Alabama, I think they're fine. I think people hit the panic buttons a little early on Alabama. I think that Milroe gives them a chance to play good football. So I do. I think people press the panic button early on Alabama. But I kind of feel the same way about Texas A&M. I think after that Miami game, people left, saying this team's awful. That they can't play any defense. They get no pressure. The secondary is horrendous. They have a great offense, but it's all going to be wasted. I think people did press that panic button a little too quick on this Texas A&M team, and I think they've done it a little bit on this Alabama team as well. I look at this and I go, I don't think the Aggies are going to be favored. But I think they have a legitimate chance to win this football game. If they find a way to win this football game, your chances of winning the West open up. Think about it. Go through. Auburn's got losses in the SEC losses. Arkansas has SEC losses. There's Ole Miss. Yeah, because Ole Miss has SEC loss, right? Because they lost to Alabama. Yeah, so they lost to Alabama. LSU now has an SEC loss because they lost to Ole Miss. You don't have an SEC loss yet. So, if you just keep stacking up wins, there's a chance. There's a legitimate chance. So that means really that right now, if you look at the standings, Alabama doesn't have an SEC loss. They've beat Ole Miss and Mississippi State. So this means right here, you look at this and you go, we're right in this. We're right in the thick of this with some teams. We're right in the mix to where you win a couple football games. You beat Alabama. You go on the road and beat Tennessee. I think I'd be willing to bet the Aggies are first in the SEC West. I think that is statistically a fact, right? Because if they beat Alabama, they'd have a loss. But the point is, the SEC is more open, and some of these teams that we thought were going to be really good, the Tennessees, the Alabamas, the Ole Miss, the LSUs of the world, they aren't as good as we anticipated. We went into this year saying Arkansas could be really good. I was concerned about that game. The Aggies handle business in a game that they always seem to, but still, it's a big win. And I just think this SEC schedule is more open than many anticipated. Is it easy? No. You still have to go on the road for 3 of your toughest tests. You got to go to Knoxville. You got to go to Baton Rouge. You got to go to Oxford. Those are not going to be easy football games to win. But frankly, if you find a way to win a couple of those, and you have the tiebreaker over some people, I think that the SEC West is up for grabs for the Aggies. That is the position they put themselves in, starting out 2-0, 2 wins that you should have won these games. You were favored to win these games, but I saw a lot of people in the national media picking the Hogs in this game, and the Aggies go and they say, we don't care. We don't care what the national media has to say. We're going to go and take care of our business and win this football game. And that's what they did. So that's another takeaway, is just the SEC is open. It really is. And we're not going to try. We're not going to, are the Aggies going to be favored against Alabama? Probably not. Is everybody probably going to pick Alabama in this game? Yeah, probably. But the Aggies can win this game if the defense continues to play well and get pressure, and Max Johnson continues to play at the level he's played at these last couple of games. The Aggies can win that football game, and then that really opens up this schedule to where you have a legitimate chance to win the West. So it's getting to a really exciting point for the Aggies. It's getting to a point where this season is going to start to get a lot of fun really fast. So we're going to run through some stats from the win over Arkansas and look at some interesting PFF grades. There were some players that had really good PFF numbers. We're going to run through all that coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. But first, I want to tell you about our friends over at FanDuel. Snap into action this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets, guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is so easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. So let's run through some numbers from this ball game. There was I was really happy with everything stats-wise in this game. I don't like turnovers, and I don't like missed field goals. Now, before we get into stats, I'll make a point on that. One thing I think that an exciting thing you can kind of take away from this game is the fact that, and I said a little bit, but like the missed field goals, the turnovers, you make all those mistakes, but you're still able to leave with the victory. And that is what, I talked about win the turnover battle. I know it's cliche, but I talked about it. Did the Aggies win the turnover battle in this game? They did not, but they won the football game. And sometimes you're going to play bad. You're going to make mistakes. You're not going to play a good football game, but you got to find a way to win. You have got to find a way to win big football games. And that's what the Aggies did. Despite some mistakes, despite turnovers, despite missed field goals, they just found a way to win. So this is a big win. So running through the numbers, Max Johnson was 17 for 28 in this ball game, 210 yards, 2 touchdowns, an interception, put the ball on the ground. Le'Veon Moss, we talked about his numbers, 17 for 107. Max Johnson, 9 for 57 on the ground. Mari Daniels, 10 for 36. Through the air, Aniyah Smith was awesome. Punt return, had a couple big plays in the receiving game. He was 4 for 71 through the air. Evan Stewart only had 2 receptions in this game, 50 receiving yards, and a touchdown. But, man, one of those catches, the touchdown catch was huge, but also the catch, it was to convert on a 3rd down, I believe. I'm pretty sure. But I remember the catch. I don't fully remember the situation now. I'm kind of blanking on it. But the catch was insane. He's able to go up and get it on the sideline, get a foot down, and then he obviously got hit really hard. But, it's a game where, was he crazy involved? Were the numbers massive? No, but he did exactly what he needed to do. He did exactly what he needed to do to help this team win this football game. Le'Veon Moss was 3 for 27 through the air. Max's brother was 2 for 21. Max Wright was 2 for 20. He had a really cool catch in this game. Moose had 1 catch for 10 yards. Noah Thomas wasn't crazy involved. Only 1 catch for 6 yards. Now, I know he's come back from that injury, but that was a little interesting to see. I'm sure we'll see him more involved next week. That's why I think there's your head over to FanDuel and place your Noah Thomas anytime touchdown score against Alabama prop bet. Free money right there. I have a feeling about it. It just hit me. That's my lock of the week. And then on PFF, Terrion York didn't play a ton of snaps. He played 26 snaps, but the PFF grade just continues to be really good. 80.3 in this game. And all of the linebackers were graded out well on PFF. Cooper, Russell, everybody in this game graded out really well. Cooper and Bryce Anderson led the team in tackles. Cooper had 2 sacks, 3 tackles for loss. Just a great game from him. Russell had a couple tackles. Fadil Diggs had some good numbers. York had a lot of tackles. I mean, just everybody on the defense. Nobody played a bad football game. I thought that Jacoby Matthews came in and played a really good football game, made some big plays early when this was a tight game. This was just an all-around good team victory where everybody did their part and they were able to leave with a win over the Arkansas Razorbacks. The Aggies are 4-1. The Aggies are 2-0 in SEC play, and the Alabama Crimson Tide are coming to town. Ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be a fun week. That's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Aggies. Thank you so much for tuning in every single day. I really do appreciate it. It's going to be a fun week breaking down this game. It's a big one. A lot of fun going on this week right here on Locked On Aggies. Have a great rest of your day today, and we will see you tomorrow.